I recently picked up this Real Steel H6 Special Edition 2. This version comes in several colors for their G10 handles. I opted for the black and orange. There's also a orange G10 spacer in the back. It's not as attractive to me as the black and orange. I wish they would have put the black and orange in the back also. It is ambidextrous as far as you can do tip up or tip down, whichever you prefer. I prefer tip up, which is how it comes. That way you can just deploy it easily like that. It flips open quite nicely. No resistance. I haven't oiled it or anything since I got it. It has an ambidextrous thumb stud. It is the same size on both sides, and which is good for both left and right, obviously. All the hardware appears to be stainless steel. It is Torx, in case you need to tighten any of it. Some people don't necessarily have Torx bits hanging around. It is quite a tiny one, so you might have to go hunting the hardware store for one. It does have a lanyard hole. Looks, you could throw any sort of lanyard in it that you would like. It would definitely, a piece of paracord would definitely go through it. I don't like lanyards. I'm not a big fan of having stuff yanked from my pocket. I've had knives before clip onto things and come flying out of my pocket, let alone having a lanyard hanging out of my pocket that something or someone could grab onto. The blade itself is a 14C28N stainless steel made by Sandvik, I think is how it's pronounced. I believe it's a Swedish company. I don't know a whole lot about the steel, other than it is preferred by a lot of knife makers. It holds a edge very well and sharpens very easy, so it makes it great for knives. The blade does have jimping and a choil. I actually had to look up what the choil was for. Apparently the choil is there for you to be able to sharpen the whole blade. Some people like to choke up and use it as a spot to put their finger. I'm not a big fan of slicing my fingers, so that seems like a terrible place for me to stick my finger. I actually prefer to keep my index finger there and put my thumb on the jimping when I'm using it. I get a nice firm grip that way. I don't have huge hands, but the knife fits me well. The grips themselves are your pretty typical G10 feeling. They're quite grippy. Not smooth, but not super rough. I have a Spyderco that's more like sandpaper compared to this, which is also a G10 handled knife, which I plan on reviewing in the future. It is a drop point blade with a hollow grind. This knife has been my everyday carry for the last month or so. I haven't had any issues with it. The knife itself feels quite strong. There isn't a huge amount of movement in the mechanism. The closed length of the blade is 4 3/4 inches. Blade length is 3 5/8, and it's a good EDC size, I think. It's definitely not a huge knife, but it's definitely not a tiny little pocket knife like a Swiss Army knife or like a multi-tool blade. You could actually get some work done with this knife. This knife is a liner lock. It works quite well. Feels very solid when it clips in. I'm not worried about it folding in on my hand at all. Yeah, the quality of this knife seems quite well. It seems like it fits right in its price range. Real Steel has it up on their website for, let's see here, $66.50. I actually managed to pick it up for quite a bit lower. Like most typical MSRP is quite a bit higher than you'll buy something for. Looking at eBay right now, I paid $53 for this knife, shipped from the seller Nuts for Knives, which they seem to have the cheapest price for these knives currently as I'm recording this. If you were considering this knife, I would go ahead and pick it up. It seems like a really good knife for the cost. It does come in several colors, like I said, right on the website. It comes in black, mixed color, and orange. Each one's available in satin or black blade. I prefer the satin just because usually the black blades end up just kind of looking like crap after a while. The finish ends up just scraping off during use, where these stay looking better for longer, in my opinion. Like I said before, I would not hesitate to pick up one of these knives if you were looking for one. Have a good day.